Also, others in the party are not going to just pass a debt ceiling increase without any kind of, hope to cut spending. So, yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see if there's something. I mean, I think a lot of Democrats are watching this thinking there is really nothing that they're going to be able to pass that's going to be able to get through the House, especially after they watch that really chaotic leadership election. And they're kind of just betting that they're going to have to increase it.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by Congressional Reporter Samantha-Jo Roth. So we've seen in the last week or so some more infighting over the debt ceiling, but really not much seems to have changed. The positions of both the Speaker and the President seem to be hardening. Is there anything really going on here, or is it just more of the same where they're walled off and one side wants their cuts and the other side says clean extension of the debt ceiling?
I think it's just a lot of more of the same. I think both sides are just kind of waiting for the other to break at this point. And, this is something that we see all the time on Capitol Hill, where there is a deadline, they push it to the very last minute, and that's 100% what is going on right now. Kevin McCarthy has said that he wants to set up a meeting with the president. The House Republicans have not come up cohesively with their own deal. There have been factions of the party that have put, budget cuts on the table. And Senate Dems are just kind of sitting back, and to be honest, so are Senate Republicans. They're kind of just waiting in the wings. There is a feeling, though, within the party that they could have to step in at some point. But for now, they're kind of just watching and waiting. So I think that we're just going to have to keep watching this story. Unfortunately, we keep talking about it over and over, and we don't have any different result.
Well, Biden keeps saying over and over, where's your budget, sort of challenging Kevin McCarthy to unite Republicans around some kind of budget blueprint, which the president has unveiled his. But there are a lot of specific spending cuts floating around from, as you mentioned, the different factions in the House Republican Conference. And so at the same time, they keep asking for cuts, they also attack whatever cuts any individual member proposes.
Yeah, it's definitely, a hard spot to be in for Kevin McCarthy. He really needs to figure out what exactly if cuts, if any, could actually pass in the House of Representatives. Obviously, any of these cuts could be really problematic politically for some of his members that are not, that might be in districts that President Biden won in. So, this is certainly something that is very political, but, also others in the party are not going to just pass a debt ceiling increase without any kind of, hope to cut spending. So, yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see if there's something. I mean, I think a lot of Democrats are watching this thinking there is really nothing that they're going to be able to pass that's going to be able to get through the House, especially after they watch that really chaotic leadership election. And they're kind of just betting that they're going to have to increase it. So we'll check back soon about this drama.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like the running theme here is stuff that Congress can't figure out how to do. But you did a story recently about the push, mainly from the White House, but from activists outside of Capitol Hill too, for a new wave of gun laws and some gun reforms in the wake of the Nashville school shooting. But it doesn't really seem like Congress is going to answer that call, are they?
No, definitely not. And you actually see a lot of pessimism, not just from the Republicans, but also the Democrats. Senator Dick Durbin, seemed very pessimistic about this. And even Senator Schumer was asked about this during his press conference. He was asked about whether they would pursue gun laws, and he, of course, said we want to, but had not committed at all to bring it to the floor. So I think there is a feeling on Capitol Hill, especially ahead of another election, like this really isn't the time to do it, even though a lot of people are looking at laws and maybe hoping that that would be different. But the last bill that got through where they raised some of the age limits. It helped incentivize red flag laws in certain states. As we've noted in our report, not every state has adopted these laws. These kinds of things are really the only way that lawmakers are willing to move forward.
Yeah, President Biden keeps referencing the 1994 assault weapons ban that was part of the bigger crime bill that he did when he was in the Senate. But 1994 is not remembered as a very good election year for Democrats.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't seem like anyone's really committing to putting that on the floor. And I think there's just an overall acceptance that that is not something that can pass, especially in a divided, Congress right now.
Right. I mean, you've got a Republican-controlled House, and Republicans have the votes to really filibuster pretty much anything they want in the Senate.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're even seeing them put through, they're using some of these congressional review acts to actually, pass a lot of legislation or just, statements that are really forcing a lot of the Democrats to take hard positions, specifically those in states that are red leaning. So that has been a little bit problematic for some of the Democrats. And we've even seen, President Biden have to, back off on the veto threats just because of that. So they're certainly using their majority in the House of Representatives to their advantage, for sure.
So former President Donald Trump's indictment was the talk of the country, talk of a lot of people, and Capitol Hill was no exception to that. So a lot of lawmakers had reactions. What were some of the things that they said?
I think overall we're hearing from Republicans, even some of the ones that had initially stayed really quiet, they are weighing in and saying that this is a very political prosecution, that, this prosecutor in New York is just looking to, make former President Trump a martyr. And I think that's kind of an overall theme that we're seeing, even from some of the most anti-Donald Trump people in the Republican conference. I think it was particularly notable to see Mitt Romney, a senator who has voted 2 times to impeach this former president, kind of weighing in and saying that this is not, that this prosecution
it seems like a reach.
Yeah, like it doesn't pass the smell test. And we even heard that from Senator John Thune, who has been someone who hasn't really had a reason to weigh in. Thune and the former president were not fans of one another. They often, there was a bit of controversy between the two of them, and we even heard him come out against the indictment. So I think we're hearing that from a lot of Republicans, and I think a lot of Democrats are sort of, trying to weigh in very carefully, trying to say that no one is above the law, but at the same time, some of them have been advised to be very careful with what they're saying in the wake of, the unsealing of this indictment.
That does, though, sort of be part of the breakdown here, though, right? Is that the Republicans see this as weaponization of the justice system and of law enforcement. Democrats are making the argument that this is equality under the law, nobody's above the law, and that includes Donald Trump.
Right, so you definitely do have 2 different messages at play, but I think like in the days to come, we're going to really see some of those shifting. Really depends on what, the strategy of Democrats have been. But I think you're definitely hearing a lot more from some of those Republicans who are anti-Trump, who are, saying, just as, Senator Mitt Romney said, I don't support, President Trump, former President Trump, but they're looking at this prosecution and looking at the charges and wondering if it's fair. And I think you're going to hear a lot more of that. One person who has not weighed in is the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell.
Right.
So we'll see if he decides to weigh in anytime soon, but he doesn't have a lot of motivation to want to.
No, he really tends to only speak when he has a reason to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's made no secret that the former president he's not a fan.
No.
So, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he decides to weigh in, but at the same time, also not shocked that he hasn't.
It's an indictment of partisan politics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, SJ. You can read Samantha-Jo and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.